you know you have the right potential partner when both people feel like it's too good to be true for them. They feel like it's skewed in their favor. And, when my partner and I were out for coffee, I vividly remember her being like, I kind of am just worried this isn't fair to you. And I said, well, I kind of worry it's not fair to you.
Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom, using multiple streams of income and real estate to accomplish their goals. We are here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life that you love that inspires others to do the same. I'm your co-host, Tresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the book, Without Fear of Her Future.
And I'm Melissa Baker, a real estate investor and fitness coach specializing in turning properties from drab to fab. I'm here to help motivate and inspire you to build your dream life because, girl, you deserve it. Ladies, are you ready for an episode that's going to light a fire within you? Today, we have a guest who's not just inspiring, she's living proof that what you believe in yourself, incredible transformation will happen. Our guest today is the epitome of resilience and ambition. She went from the fast-paced world of the beauty industry to becoming a reigning queen in the realm of real estate investing. Imagine saying goodbye to that 9-to-5 grind forever and stepping into a world of endless opportunities. Without further ado, let's meet the woman who's been there, done that, and is here to share her secrets with you. Joining us in welcoming the unstoppable Jessie Dillion.
Woohoo!
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. What an intro. I need you ladies to just follow me around and introduce me that way everywhere.
Well, we are so excited to have you on the show today and want to just get started by letting you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your story. Can we just start there?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Jessie Dillion. I'm born and raised in Central Massachusetts. I am 31 years old and I've only been in the real estate investing world for a couple of years. So back in 2017, I left my day job with a big box beauty retailer doing education to go out on my own and try and make it as a solo beauty service provider. I really, really fell in love with the business piece. So I've owned my beauty salon since 2017. And, a couple years ago, I just really started to realize how much of a toll it was taking on me working in the business so much. And that's what ultimately led me into real estate. So these days I'm managing a multifamily rental property. I've gotten into wholesaling and I'm doing more of just the oversight with my beauty business, not working in the business quite as much. So that's what everything looks like today.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
So your initial, what I read was that your initial exposure to real estate came through a podcast. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So I think like most people, I just had this preconceived idea that you had to either be really wealthy or much older or a man to get involved with rental properties. And, I was shocked to find out that was not the case. But a couple years ago, I had said, okay, working in this beauty business has become really taxing. I've had to put a lot of, my personal life, my family life on the back burner. I was having really, really terrible body pain that nothing was solving. And I knew I needed a way out of working in the business quite as much. So I had actually come across a Facebook clickbait article about the FIRE movement. And it was a girl on Instagram, Millennial Money Honey, who was interviewed in this article. And she had talked about how, she's in her late 20s and she's on track to retire within a few years by aggressively investing in index funds. And I'm like, I can do that. That sounds so easy. So I read The Simple Path to Wealth. And I just went so far down this FIRE rabbit hole. But I realized even though I achieved a 70% savings rate, it was still going to take me like 11 years of doing that. And I knew that my body was not going to be able to do that because, I already had arthritis in my neck. Like it was, my body was deteriorating fast, like with the repetitive movements and hunching over for 10 hours. And one of the podcasts that I was listening to, it was a fire podcast, but there was a real estate investor on there. And he was talking about how you could achieve that work optional life within just a couple years if you really go all in on real estate. And I was like, I can definitely envision myself retiring in a couple of years versus 11 years. So I got to figure this out. And this was summer of 2021. So fall of 2021, I just binged everything. I binged every podcast, all the books. I paid for the coaching calls. I did the Bigger Pockets boot camp. And by Thanksgiving, I was making offers on my first property.
Woo.
So I think I went a little bit faster than a lot of people because I already had that entrepreneurship experience. I think that's what made me, proceed without fear, because I had done it once. So I just didn't think it was going to be that scary.
Wow, what a story.
That. It is great.
I love it. And I love every single thing you said, because that is exactly how I felt. And I feel like it's what everybody feels. You said you thought you had to have a lot of money. You thought you had to be a man. And you think you have to have all this experience. And none of those things are true. And I love that you heard about it first on a podcast.
Yes.
And that's what I love about our podcast, is because today someone is going to hear this conversation today, and it's going to be what inspires them to say, oh my gosh, I can do this. Because the truth is, anyone can do it. Anyone who sets their mind and says, I'm going to do this. And if you do want to work hard enough, and really dial in, you can retire within a few years. If you just want to do this on the side because you love what you're doing, then you can do a little bit on the side and retire in, 10 years, whatever that looks like. But all of that was absolutely so exciting. And I'm so impressed, first of all, how you just jumped in and started making offers, because I think making offers is probably one of the most difficult things, especially for some reason for women. They will go through all of they will even do the marketing. They will do all the things. They will get leads, but never make the offer. Even talk to a seller, but never actually make the offer. And so, awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I think what really propelled me to actually start taking action and making offers was all the podcasts started to sound the same. All the books started to sound the same.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was kind of at a point where I had to stop consuming new content and just actually go use what I learned.
Oh my gosh.
Take action.
Yes.
I love it.
Because we get caught up in the analysis paralysis, thinking I need one more seminar, one more book, one more thing. But you said it. It's just taking action.
So good.
Can you share maybe some of the key lessons that you learned during that early, when you just started making those offers and you first got started? What's something that you really recall?
One thing that I remember was, at that time, when I first got into that property, this was a huge lesson that came from, the very, very beginning. When I first got into my first property, the basement flooded.
Oh.
Like within a month, the basement flooded. And I actually had never owned a property before. So I bought my first 2 investment properties while I was still a renter. Wow. So I had no clue what you do in this situation. Like, let's not forget, I came from the beauty industry. So, I'm not like a contractor or anything. I had no clue. And I was completely panicked, like 100% panicked, ruined my week. And it was coming from a place of, I just don't want to do the wrong thing. I want to do right by the people living in this property. I just don't want to be seen as a bad landlord. I want to make sure I do something immediately. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And I think the big lesson that came from it was that no problem is really that big. There's going to be wrenches thrown into the plan a million times. There's going to be things that come up that you don't know how to deal with, like that situation. But there's always someone that you can ask. There's always someone you can call. There's always a way to finance the problem. Like, there's really nothing that's going to come up that you can't figure out, that you can't find a way to get over, you know? So I think these days, if that was to happen, it would not be as big of a panic moment as it was. My husband was there installing a sump pump like the following day. And I feel so bad for him because I totally projected all my panic onto him in that moment. But yeah, I think that was my biggest lesson from the beginning is, you know, it's not always going to go perfectly, but there's a solution to literally everything that could go wrong.
Right, right.
Woo.
So can you walk us through, I know a lot of our listeners, as they're just getting started in real estate, it's like Tresa was saying, making the offer is one of the hardest things, but just taking those first steps of negotiating. Can you talk us through like your first property, how you negotiated, what you negotiated, and what that process looked like for you?
Yeah, so I knew what type of property I wanted. I knew that I wanted a 2 to 4 unit multifamily. I knew just comfort wise, I wanted to stay sort of close to home. So that property is about 20 minutes away from me. And I knew how much money I could put down while still having reserves. I already knew what lender I was going to work with. And I knew that with that lender, if I got the property at a discount, I could put down just 10%. So I knew what price point I could look at. Once I knew all that, I knew exactly what properties were going to fit that buy box. So there was really no excuse to not offer on something that checked all the boxes that I had already decided on, you know?
Right.
So there was one property, it was a 2-unit. It had been listed for like a month and a half, which was a long time in that season.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 years ago around here, yeah, it was odd that it had been listed for so long. And come to find out, it was really ideal for someone who wanted a single family with an in-law, but there was a long-term tenant in the smaller unit that was in a lease. So I think it was just kind of not ideal for the retail buyer or the investor at that time. But you know, I went and I walked the property. Me and my husband went. He's an electrician, so I feel like him checking out, you know, that type of stuff about the property like made me feel a little bit better. But I really built rapport with the listing agent. I didn't use a buyer's agent at this time, and I still don't normally. But we just really hit it off. We talked all about the area and, you know, what we were looking for and how this would be our first investment and everything. And I went home and I wrote this insanely long, detailed email to her explaining exactly why I could only do a certain price. So it was listed for $410. And I wrote this whole email out about how, like, why I could only do $350. And I was like, I really don't mean to insult. Like, these are all the things that I loved about the property. This is everything my husband was saying. And, you know, he works in the trades and he was admiring all, you know, this and that. And I broke down all the numbers of why this is truly the price that it would have to be for me. And I just kept driving home, you know, I don't want this to insult the owner. And, she, looking back, I think it was a way more elaborate email than I really had to provide, but it worked because she came back and she said, you know, he'd like to counter at 365. And I was like, I really don't think we can do that. I don't think it's going to make it past underwriting based on, you know, the criteria they gave me, but I think we could meet in the middle at 357.5. And that's what we met at. And then the property appraised for 420. Woo! So I got it at a huge discount.
Yeah, you
at
did.
That time, I was over the moon. I was like, I'm like, you know, $60,000 richer basically just from getting it at a discount. And, but it worked great for everybody. You know, the seller was happy. We were happy. So yeah,
that is awesome. You know, I want to stop you because I love to point out to listeners everything that they if they're listening, what they could have just learned from everything you said. And so one of those things is knowing a little bit about what you're looking for. Now, sometimes I go into it and I don't have a clue what I'm looking for. I'm just doing the marketing and I'm going to see what sticks. But if you knew what you wanted, you know what area you wanted it in. So that's another strategy that can be, I never want anybody to limit themselves to that because then you're going to miss all the other things that were not right where you thought it should be. However, I want to just point that out. So if there is something specific that someone is wanting, I would love to have a short-term rental in this area. I want a multi, complex in, over here, or for whatever reason, like you had some purpose for what you were wanting. So I love that. And then you knew what you could pay for it. You knew what you were willing to do. You you had a thought process and you made the offer. Maybe your letter was a little extravagant. And I do think that as we get better at this, we realize that that's not always necessary. But especially when we first make those offers, we're always so afraid that it's going to be offensive. And I do think that we have to learn, and I love it. And I say almost in all negotiations, I will say exactly what you wrote in the letter. Okay. I never want this to offend you. However, blah, 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 blah. Because I don't. Yeah. And they have to understand, listen, and I'm always honest, is this has to make sense. And I want to create a win-win. And this is the number it would have to be for me to win. But I also want you to win. So if this number doesn't work out, I completely understand. Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I thought that was really powerful. I want to go back to something else that you said is a little bit earlier, is whenever there was the flood in the house and you freaked out. We have to understand as investors, as business owners of any kind of business, that we're not going to win every single time. There are going to be things that happen. There's going to be risk involved. And we have to have a tolerance for that. And we cannot, okay, man, this one sucked, or this one, I didn't make money, or, maybe even I lost a little bit of money on it, but we can't give up. We don't stop. We just move on to the next thing. And I think that that's something on the inside of us. I think in general, women make better investors than men because we're better listeners. However, I do think one of the areas is that I think typically women are less likely to take risk. Not all the time. And maybe I shouldn't even say that, but we do have to become risk takers and know that it's okay. Even if you lose some, don't give up. Just do it again and learn from what learn the lesson and do better next time. And it's not even, it's not even our fault. Some of these times that things happen, there's nothing you could have done to prevent so many of the things that happen.
I think a lot of women are afraid to get into real estate investing because of things like that, dealing with those issues, or, dealing with tenants who are not happy. If you know that you're someone who doesn't want to deal with those things, you can still invest in so many other ways, even buy and hold rentals. Just hire a property management so that you're only working with them. I think there's like a shame around having property management in place when you have a small local portfolio. But if you don't like doing that work, there's no shame in just outsourcing that work.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah. I'm a big believer in property management. This is what I always teach. We want to be investors. So let somebody else, manage the property so that we have more time to go get more deals instead of dealing with clogged toilets and all the things. So, okay. I want to jump into, also, I know that you have a 13 unit.
That is a little bit newer. Yeah.
Well, and did I understand that you got into this without a down payment?
Correct.
Wow.
And it's long distance.
And okay, so tell us.
We want to hear.
Yep. So throughout 2022, I bought 3 properties pretty close together. The third was a house hack, and they're all in New England. So it's a little more expensive. And I kind of was tapped out of my own money that I could use to keep investing. And I sort of felt like, did I do something wrong here? Like, I feel like I wasn't supposed to run out of money. Why do I have to stop now? Did I go wrong somewhere? And I went to BPCon around this time last year. And I had this huge realization that everyone at some point either has run into or will run into that point where they're tapped out, whether it's, their own time or their own money, and it just has to become a team sport somehow. And that was huge for me because I realized I didn't do something wrong. I actually reached, this kind of milestone in my investing career. And I had said, I have the time and I have the knowledge, but I'm tapped out of the capital. So I just need to find somebody who doesn't really have the time or knowledge, but does have the capital and understands the power of real estate investing. So I had reached out to a bunch of people in my network when I got back from that conference. And I said, this is what I've been doing. This is what I'm looking to do next. And, do you know anyone who might be interested in this? And someone had connected me with a partner who we went on to have a couple phone calls. We met for coffee and just kind of talking about our goals and our lives and what we want to accomplish in the next couple of years and our risk tolerance and, just our personal thoughts on partnerships. And we decided it was a really good match and we were going to move forward and look for something together. This was December 2022. So we got all of our ducks in a row, like with the legal stuff and our LLCs and a trust, and we started offering. And we made creative on-market offers for 6 months. It was exhausting. And my fatal mistake was that I had to write up creative offers to make on-market deals home runs. But everyone else was accepting base hits. So all these properties, we were offering on maybe, I would say like 15 to 40 unit portfolios together. And there was 10 other people in line behind me with traditional offers because they were willing to take a base hit. So that was my rookie mistake there. And, after 6 months of offering, I had said, okay, to get the cash flow that we want, but have to put down, 20 or 25% and just do traditional financing, we have to go out of state. And we can't achieve that around here right now. So here are all the cities that, have higher cap rates, like the cash flow would be a lot better than it would be around here. These are popular markets for other investors. What do you think about this? I said this to my partner and she actually, she felt most confident with Chicago when we looked at that list. And she was like, I travel there for work sometimes. So I have like some colleagues there. And we agreed on Chicago on a Friday. We were under contract on Monday.
Ooh, wow. Yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you just think out of the box.
It was so fast.
Love it.
And what was funny is everyone says LoopNet is where deals go to die. But the worst deal in the Midwest looks amazing to me through the lens of someone who had been offering in New England. So I was thrilled. I'm like, wow, the returns on this look amazing. So we got under contract the first week of May and we closed this past July. So it's 13 units, long distance. That's about 1,000 miles away from us. Definitely a big value add play. So my partner brought the funds to the deal. So she brought the down payment, the closing costs, the reserves, and I do 99% of the work. So from the time that, we started looking and underwriting, writing offers, all the way through asset management and working with the property management company weekly, I do 99% of that work.
Okay. Which is fair because she's bringing all the cash to the table. I love partnerships and that is the key. Again, so if anyone's listening, where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. If you just think about it, I mean, somebody out there has the money, but not the time or the knowledge or the desire, whatever it is. And if you're willing to do the work, or maybe you're listening and you're like, hey, I've got the money, but I don't have, partnerships. They're so, and it just feels safer. I think we have more confidence when we're doing things with a partner, especially in the beginning. That's a great story. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And I feel like, you have the right potential partner when both people feel like it's too good to be true for them. They feel like it's skewed in their favor. And, when my partner and I were out for coffee, I vividly remember her being like, I kind of am just worried this isn't fair to you. And I said, well, I kind of worry it's not fair to you. Like, I feel like it's such a great deal that I get to own half of this, but I don't have to bring any money to the deal. And she felt like it was so amazing for her that she gets half of this deal, but she doesn't have to do the work. So I think in the perfect partnership, you should both feel like it's a huge win.
Gosh, if you're listening to the podcast, if you didn't hear anything else, hear what she just said. And it is true. It was a great deal for both of you. It was a deal that neither one of you could have done without the other person. And when you can do deals like that, those are home runs all day long. And if you can just do one after another, so good, Jessie, so good.
Yes. Yeah, that is. So we want to hear about your portfolio plans for the future. What's next for you, and what does this look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the way that 13 unit deal was structured was so perfect for me and my long-term goals. I'd like to repeat that, like rinse and repeat deals, very similar to that a couple more times over the next year and a half. And in the meantime, value add multifamily, it definitely takes a little while for it to ramp up cash flow wise. So in the meantime, I've been working with a creative financing company and working with them on wholesale deals. So that kind of will fill in that gap, producing more active income while the multifamily ramps up.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
I love that plan. So, Jessie, what advice do you have for women who are looking to follow in your footsteps and do what you're doing?
I think my biggest advice would be to find people who are only maybe a year or 2 years ahead of you and that you feel like you can really relate to, and just invest in the coaching with them or, going to the retreats or going to the conferences or, joining the mastermind, because it's so powerful to see someone doing exactly what you want to be doing. And they're just like you. And they're only, a couple of footsteps ahead of you. I feel like that's so much more motivating than, someone who's just light years ahead of you, like 10 years, 20 years ahead of you. So I think finding those people to look up to and to collaborate with and just kind of put yourself in the same room as them, that would be my biggest tip.
I love that. I love how you talk about the coaching and mentorship and masterminds, because that is definitely something that the Women's Real Estate Investors Network definitely is all about. Yeah. And that networking. So, Tresa, I want to hear some takeaways.
Well, so many. Jessie, I'm just impressed. I love it. At the beginning, you said you're 31 years old. Oh, that makes my heart so happy when I hear 30-year-olds jumping into this business and already having so much success.
And a little envious.
Yes. We both got into this much later. I was 50 before I ever even learned about real estate investing. So, you've got 20 years ahead of me, and just what your future looks like is so incredible. So yeah, just so proud of you. So excited for your future.
Thank you.
Want to hear more about, what you do. So we'll definitely have you on again in the future.
Yes. Love it.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today. And if you're listening and you have not subscribed to the Without Fear of Her Future podcast, well, hit that subscribe button today for new episode reminders. As we wrap up, I have a special invitation for all the women listening. An invitation to safeguard your financial future, just like Jessie did, begin your own legacy. Click the link in the show notes of this episode to grab tickets to the next Without Fear of Her Future masterclass. If you can just commit 1 hour a day for 7 days to yourself, I can promise you that your future will thank you, your children will thank you, and the generations to come will remember that you were the one who broke the economic cycle in your family. So join thousands of everyday women just like yourself, just like myself, who are coming together to breathe life into our dreams.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and Tresa Todd, I'm Melissa Baker, encouraging you to be brave and dream big.